Hey there. Ready for a deep dive? Today we're looking at single sourcing in technical writing. Now I know what you're thinking. Technical writing. Ugh, sounds boring. But stick with us because this is way more interesting than you might think. We're going to be focusing on this article by Curt Robbins, a senior technical writer who's worked with some really big names.
Oh, yeah, some impressive companies. FedEx, Microsoft, Nationwide Insurance, just to name a few. And in this article, Robbins really makes the case that single sourcing is a game changer, especially for those large organizations.
Okay, so let's back up a second. When we say single sourcing, what exactly are we talking about? I mean, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but
Right.
I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on beneath the surface. So, at its core, single sourcing is about having one central source of information, like a single source of truth for all your content. And then that single source is repurposed and distributed across different formats.
So like websites, PDFs, help systems, even mobile apps, all pulling from that same source.
Exactly. And to make this work, technical writers are using a bunch of tools. Things like structured content models, where the information is tagged and organized super specifically. Content management systems, CMS, let teams work together and manage all of this information in one central spot. And then you've got things like markup languages, like XML, which provides a standardized way to structure content for different outputs.
XML. Okay, now it's starting to sound a little technical.
It can seem intimidating at first, but it's what makes single sourcing really powerful.
Yeah?
XML is kind of like a set of instructions that tell the computer how to handle each piece of content. So you can tag text as a heading or paragraph, and then the XML ensures it's displayed the right way, whether it's on a web page, a PDF, or a mobile app.
So it's almost like using a Lego set, right? You have these different blocks you can put together in tons of different ways to create different structures.
I like that analogy. With single sourcing, you're basically building these reusable content blocks that can be mixed and matched to create different outputs for different audiences. It's pretty cool when you think about it.
So Robbins talks about all these advantages to single sourcing. What are some of the big ones?
Well, definitely consistency. Imagine you're a customer trying to fix a problem with a product, but the online help file contradicts the printed manual. How annoying would that be?
Super frustrating, right?
Exactly. Single sourcing prevents that kind of headache by making sure all the documentation is aligned.
Makes sense. But wouldn't all that consistency make it tough to adjust the content for different types of audiences? Like what works for a tech expert might not work for a casual user.
That's a great point, and it's where the technical writer's skill really comes in. Single sourcing doesn't mean you can't tailor the message. It just means you're starting with a solid base of consistent information. It's like having a core set of ingredients you can use to make different dishes.
I like that. Okay, so we've got consistency as a big advantage. What else?
Well, efficiency is another huge one. Think about it. Technical writers can update info once, and it updates everywhere. I actually worked with a software company that cut their documentation update time by 75% after switching to single sourcing. Crazy, right?
Wow, that's a huge time saver. So why isn't everyone doing this?
Well, there are a few hurdles, but before we get to those, Robbins also points out how valuable single sourcing is for global companies. Imagine translating tons of documents for different languages. With single sourcing, you're just translating those little blocks of content instead of whole documents, which makes it much easier.
Right, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it sounds like single sourcing has a lot going for it, especially for larger companies.
It does, but just like any system, it has its downsides too. Let's explore those next.
Right, sounds good. You mentioned some hurdles earlier.
Yeah. One of the biggest ones Robbins talks about is the initial setup. Getting the right tools, training people, redesigning the content workflows, it can take a lot of time and money. That might be a big barrier for smaller companies.
I bet. And keeping everything organized, that could be a nightmare, right? Especially if there's a ton of content. It could turn into a huge digital junk drawer.
You're telling me. That's actually one of the potential downsides Robbins mentions. He calls it content bloat. If you're not careful, you can end up with multiple versions of the same information floating around, which obviously defeats the whole point.
So how do you avoid that? Is it just a matter of being organized, or are there specific strategies to manage content effectively?
There are definitely strategies and best practices. You have to shift your mindset from individual documents to reusable modules. Imagine having like 5 different versions of a paragraph explaining something, each one slightly different for a different audience. With single sourcing, you need to find a way to either combine those variations or manage them effectively. Otherwise, you're back to a messy repository.
So it's kind of like Marie Kondoing your content, getting rid of anything that doesn't spark joy, right?
Exactly. You have to be ruthless about getting rid of redundancy and keeping things streamlined and purposeful.
Okay, so we've talked about the pros and cons, but what about the actual tools? Robbins mentions quite a few in his articles, so where do you even begin?
Well, there are a lot of options out there. Some of the industry giants, like Adobe FrameMaker, are known for their robust features and support for structured authoring and XML.
So FrameMaker is like the Cadillac of single sourcing tools. Top of the line, but probably comes with a hefty price tag.
You could say that. Then there are tools like Madcap Flare that are super popular because they're user-friendly and flexible. You can use them to create everything from online help to printed manuals.
And what about those cloud-based platforms like Confluence and Gitbook? How do those fit in?
Those are great for teams who want a more collaborative and accessible approach,
Yeah.
often used for internal documentation or knowledge bases, but you can also use them for customer-facing stuff.
So there really is a tool for everyone, huh? It sounds like single sourcing is less about the tools themselves and more about a change in how we think about creating content.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that makes Robbins' article so insightful. He emphasizes that single sourcing isn't just a technical thing, it's a strategic decision that can impact a company's success.
So it's about more than just saving time and money.
Oh, for sure. It's about building a culture of clear communication, both inside and outside the company. Documentation is often the first thing a customer sees. It's how they learn about your products, how they solve problems. It's a big deal.
Yeah, if a company's documentation is bad, that reflects poorly on the whole company.
Exactly. Investing in good documentation and using something like single sourcing to manage it shows that you care about your users and you want them to have a good experience.
And in a competitive market, that's a big deal. Like they say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
That's a good one. And it brings up a good question. If single sourcing is getting so important for companies, what does that mean for all of us, as just regular consumers of information?
You mean, is it leading to better documentation overall? Are we coming to expect a higher level of quality and consistency in the information we see?
Exactly. Think about it. Even if you're not a technical writer, you're interacting with documentation all the time that was probably created using single sourcing.
Yeah, all those online help systems, product manuals, FAQs, they're likely all products of single sourcing.
Right. And if it's done well, it makes for a much better experience for us as users. But it also puts more pressure on companies to create documentation that meets those higher expectations.
So single sourcing is kind of shaping the information world around us, even if we don't always realize it.
You got it. And that's why this is such a fascinating topic. It's not just about technical writing. It's about how we communicate and share information in a world that's getting more and more complex.
Well, I think we've covered a lot today. We've gone from what single sourcing is to why it matters for both companies and the people using their products.
And we even touched on some of the tools and strategies.
Big thanks to Curt Robbins for that awesome article. It's given us all a lot to think about.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it helpful.
And if you want to learn more, there are tons of resources online. Maybe you'll even try out some of these techniques yourself.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.